the principal consultant, etc. Consult Limited. Yeah, you're welcome, sir. God bless you.
Thank you very much, MC. Let me begin by apologizing for appearing in 10 minutes. Marine and blue economy is, I swear, the new economy. Everybody is looking up to it to deliver as the oil fortunes begin to dwindle. But we can't go far without having a direction. It's that direction that we're trying to present this afternoon. Without a curriculum, which is a roadmap, you hardly can arrive at your destination. There's a saying that goes thus: how do you hope to arrive if you don't know where you're going? So the curriculum defines the direction of our movement. And I'm going to speak a little bit about it in a few minutes in front of me. So we're looking at curriculum for sustainable marine and blue economic development. Let me just say a few words about curriculum by way of opening. The curriculum is the planned educational experience that guides student learning. And a good curriculum is a roadmap for student learning, outlining what students should know and should be able to do. Not just know, but what they should be able to do. Today's curriculum is largely limited to knowing, but a good curriculum goes beyond knowing to doing. And that is reflected in the objective. In most classrooms, you still find people say students should be able to understand as objective. That is Old Testament. Nowadays, we talk about at the end of this lecture, students should be able to do, explain. All those action verbs reflects a modern way, a modern approach to curriculum. And then curriculum is the heart of education, providing the framework for teaching and learning. So there you find two interacting words, teaching and learning. The curriculum guides the teacher and also guides the student. If there's no interference between two of them, then you will have good learning experience. All right. Now, we are trying to discuss the emerging or new economy, which we refer to as the blue economy. And I'd like to show you the various phases of this new economy. Let me presume that in the hall, we have zero knowledge of blue economy. And that is only an assumption. And we're trying to build a curriculum. So we first need to understand what is this economy all about before we can actually provide a curriculum. All right, so this economy covers these industries: carbon sequestration. I don't know if anybody here knows what is carbon sequestration. All right, that'll be lecture number 2. So that if I start explaining all of that, we might get lost. Then there is a marine biotechnology. There is a marine renewable energy. There's a marine spatial planning and marine surveillance, maritime education and research, the marine fisheries and aquaculture, non-traditional species culture, oil, gas and minerals, sea salt production, marine trade, shipping and transport, and marine tourism. So we can see a number of industries that we're going to develop a curriculum to cover. Why it is important to understand the industries that spring forth from marine and blue economy, so that when you develop the curriculum, the students, the product of your school, will be relevant to these industries. Because if you don't know where you are going, you can hardly arrive. All right, so I will talk about this in a minute, because we have marine and blue economy. Sometimes, some of us think they are the same, because marine is water. The blue is also water. But let me just skip this slide for a moment and move to the next. Next two. All right. Are you controlling? I'm controlling. I'm controlling, are you? Okay. I actually want to be in control. I thought I would be in control. Okay, I'm not, unfortunately. All right, so get back if that's the case. Get back one more. Okay, so I was going to talk about this later, but I was going to introduce marine and blue economy as two distinct, closely related terminologies. Now, marine refers to all the resources in the water that are exploitable, whether it is fisheries or mining or whatever. The blue economy is a terminology that refers to the sustainable exploitation of those resources. In other words, we want to exploit these resources without exhausting it. Before the concept of blue economy, there was marine economy. It has been there from day one. But this concept of blue economy introduced new dynamics into ocean wealth called the blue economy. So you can see the fine line between the two. Now, if you exploit the resources of the ocean without thinking about sustainable plans, then you are simply doing natural marine resource exploitation. But once you embrace the blue economy, you are thinking about sustainability. That's what is top on the agenda. Some of those who are involved in fisheries may know or may not know there's a law on fisheries, at least in the EU, that you cannot use a certain level of mesh in fishing. Because if you do, you are going to kill both the mature fish and the smaller fish. So the future is compromised for today. So there's an EU law on fisheries telling you that if you put your net into the sea, you must have a little mesh that will not capture the very little ones so that they have the future. I don't know how that is practiced in this country. But that is what the blue economy, the focus of the blue economy, to make sure that there's sustainability in the exploitation of ocean resources. All right, let's move on. Now, the blue economy has these dimensions. I have already shown part of them in the earlier slide. Go on. Now, in trying to define curriculums or to develop curriculums, you have an objective in mind. Sometimes you may have heard about a saying that Nigeria produces unemployable graduates. All right, that means that they were not guided properly. At the end of the day, they have certificate, but they can't deliver. So that can be traced to curriculum. I think largely, most curriculums in this country are in need of review. Some time ago, in the primary school, they moved from classes 1 to 5 to 6 years. It's not the number of years that make the difference. It's what you study within the years. I did my first master's degree in Nigeria. Then I did a second master's in the UK. In the first master's, I did like 8 to 10 courses. In the UK, I did 4 courses. But it is not the scope that matters, it's the depth. You can go wide and not have a lot of depth. But you can even have one subject and get down to the depth. I valued my time in the UK because of a lot of exposure. But here, you'll be running from one department to another, one course to another, one lecture to another, just to fulfill all righteousness. So, in setting up the curriculum, most important thing is to say, what objectives do we want to achieve? As we're all gathered, what objective do I want to achieve in speaking to all of you? Now, You can further break down the objectives to personal, self-directed, creativity, and innovation. So if you look at personal growth and development, you are trying to support the student's emotional, social, and physical well-being because the student is like a raw material. So you are trying to see how to refine the raw material so that if it leaves your class, it becomes a finished product. Now, when you are not going to be a finished product, that is when you will be referred as unemployable graduates. You are still a raw material. In other words, go back to classroom. The other objective would be to, in self-directed learning, encouraging students to take ownership of their learning and develop self-motivation. Somebody was asking me yesterday, what's the difference between Master of Research and Master of Science? And it's actually asking me, like, what's the difference between a PhD and a master's program? Now, a PhD, you are the owner of your research. You may or may not take any course from anybody because you already have taken courses enough from people that you can now determine where you want to go. All you need is maybe a little consultation here and there to get to where you want to go. So there is, if you are developing a curriculum, and I have the whole of us here in the class, I can segregate the class from those that I think they are academically mature enough to pursue their own career and develop something that is like research-oriented, while I don't want to be tutored courses. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, which I think is a high level of objective, of certain objective, is to creativity and innovation. Now, some of us have, when we went to school in the secondary school days, and we were doing courses like NECOM and physics, our regular book was NECOM and Packer. Or if it's chemistry, you're doing Holderness and Lambert. Economics, you're doing O.L. Awal. Now, for a long time, these authors never changed because they knew people who just passed through them were not creative enough to write their own books. Even a number of professors are not professing much, if they profess at all. So we now move to paper, qualification, and all of that. We're not looking at what will promote creativity and innovation. That is nurturing students' creative potential and innovative thinking. Well, that may be the difference between the developing world and the developed world. Because every now and then you see, we have moved to AI, meta AI. This one, somebody is creating it. We are on the receiving side because our curriculum is not sufficiently developed to address creativity and innovation. And this is where we should actually focus. Next slide, please. Then, what is curriculum? It refers to the planned educational content. And watch the words, content, experiences, and learning activities designed to achieve specific learning objectives. So if you know your objectives now, you ask yourself, how will I produce the necessary contents and the experiences? These are practical things. The contents may be more theoretical. And then so that, and learning activities, what activities will match and drive the lesson home so that the students will continually be engaged to achieve any or all the 3 objectives that we have said before. One of the things I couldn't capture in this presentation, which I can quickly mention now, is that in developing your curriculum, the teaching and learning is as important as the assessment. And I'll say it again, the teaching and learning is as important as the assessment. If I finish with you and I'm to assess you to see whether you have learned, now that is passing a judgment on all of us, whether we have been passive in this class or whether you have actually learned. Now, most of what I discovered is that there is more problem in assessment than in teaching and learning. I say that from experience. I've run a training programs for lecturers, including professors, for UNILAG, for UNN, for Sokoto, for Benue, for Redeem, for quite a number of universities. And I have discovered that assessment is a problem. I'll give you one clear example. If I teach 10 topics in a semester, and in the exam, I'm in love with 4 of the topics more than the other 6. I set my exam based on the 4, and some students don't like that 4. In fact, they even prefer the other 6, and they fail. Is that my assessment fair and reliable? No, it's not reliable. So the true test of assessment is that it must be valid. That is, to produce the same result, if you do it again and again, I must be reliable. So I need to, in order to make my assessment fair, I need to find a way to cover the breadth and length of what I've taught, so the students I can say, yes, if you pass, you have passed. The flip side of it is, if I have 10 students who manage to crack the 4 questions, and that's their favorite, and they score an A, but if I add the other 6 questions that will come from other topics, they will not even get a C. And then because I've given them the opportunity to score high in the areas they like, I give them an A, they become first-class students. In real terms, they are not really first class with everything, but they are lucky they are focused on the area. Now, when I was in the university, my classmates used to come to me. They said they used to call me prof. Some call me prof or doc. I didn't even have a physics degree at that time, but they were prophesying. They said, Doc, what are we expecting? Because when I attend the lecturer's class, I know where it's going. I can propose questions and go to the exam, you will find most of the questions. So if you have students that can predict you that way, and they predict 1 or 2 and focus on that, they come out very brilliant, first class. You think they are brighter than others. It's because your curriculum and your assessment was skewed. So curriculum development is actually a specialist area if you want to get a desired and predetermined result. Now, we need to have learning goals, clearly defined objectives and outcomes. Because I run training programs, so what I do is I set objective for the training. At the end of this training, I don't say participants, I say active participants. Because there's a difference between participants and active ones. So if you are very active, you will do objectives, and then outcomes. You will be able to do A, B, C, D because you have been active. So we teach our candidates, our students, our participants to learn and to do. Without the balance of the two, you are just telling stories. And that is, you are aiming to producing more unemployable graduates into the system. Now, 2, the content, subject matter, topics, and skills will be your focus. So I don't just produce things because I want people to hear a lot of grammar, but we need to analyze what are the contents, what topics am I addressing, what skills are supposed to be achieved at the end of the day. All right. 3, instructional strategies. What strategies are the teaching methods and approaches that I will use to teach the students to give the result? Again, here, I find that the academic world down here is on the low side. Now, everybody here knows about pedagogy, right? You are teachers, right? Everybody knows about pedagogy. Okay, how many people know about andragogy? If you know, raise your hand up. Andragogy. Say it loud now. All right, that's actually the opposite. Okay. Oh, pedagogy, we're addressing pedagogy. So andragogy is method of teaching adults like all of us here. So the method you use to teach young people, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, say after me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they will say it. That method doesn't work for adults. And our university education and beyond, and even after you have graduated and you are attending courses, those are andragogy. All right? And the method of andragogy is strictly different from pedagogy. Okay. I suspect you may not know the third one. Heutagogy. Anybody knows about heutagogy here? All right. That's advanced level. Okay, no problem. We'll go. I will mention the rest, but so that we can flow. Now, assessment. Evaluation methods to measure student learning is a whole subject on its own, so that you produce reliable and valid assessment. Because if your assessment is not valid and reliable, you will have misjudged the student or awarded marks or certified somebody who otherwise shouldn't have been certified. Next slide. Now, in developing a curriculum, you need to have clear objectives, knowledge acquisition. Not everybody who can even teach can develop a curriculum. There are those who will set the goal, and there are those who will score the goal. I'll give you an example. In the football match, there's a coach who tells you this is how to play. But if you ask the coach to go in and play, he may not even play. And there are those who can play very well, but they cannot coach. There are two different ball games. All right? There are those who can speak grammar very well, but if you ask them to write it, write exactly what you spoke, they will not be able to write it. All right? So we have critical thinking and problem solving. If your objectives are clear at the top, it will address this, encouraging analytical thinking, creativity, and effective problem-solving skills. That is what we need now. That is when you become employable. That is when you become a high-valued staff, a high-valued personnel in the office, because you can solve problems. If you can't solve problems, you have become a problem yourself. 3, communication skills. Fostering effective communication, reading, writing, and presentation skills. A number of us know that there are people you give an assignment to produce a proposal. They will give you an assignment because their proposal is now, you're going to get upset that you have to sit up and begin to do your proposal yourself. I've experienced a number of them. I'm working out from one of them now. In fact, somebody was presenting very good skills that can solve problems for this country. But his presentation was poor, and I have to tell myself, the next presentation, we'll need to find a way around it, because he obviously is educated with a degree, but the communication skills are questionable. Next slide. Now, let's look at the marine and blue economy, which I mentioned before. In order to really, because you are the people who now hold the future of marine and blue economy in their hands. That's the truth. You are going to define how marine and blue economy of the future will look like. You are going to produce the problem solvers of tomorrow. So you are going to tell people the direction we're going to go. The government has done their own. I actually have done my own. And one of those that proposed the establishment of blue and marine economy shortly before Jagaban announced it. I'm sure he heard about that. All right? So government have done their own. We who are probably lobbyists and academics have done our own. The rest is you, the teachers. How do we make sure that the industry is properly resourced? Or do you want us to import people from United Kingdom to come and work in the blue economy? Do you know that there are resources in the water, miles in the water that we're not aware of? Some of you like salmon, right? Madam, you like salmon, right? You like, okay. Do you know whether we have salmon in the sea, in our rivers, in our ocean? You don't know. Okay. So we need people who can actually do marine research so they know what species do we have in our sea. That will help us to plan for them in the future. So we have, of course, a lot of energy, salt mining, many resources, but we need people who can be specific about what capacity and quantity of resources do we have in Nigerian waters. So we need that. So the marine economy focuses on utilizing ocean resources for growth, while the blue economy emphasizes the sustainable use of these resources for economic development, improve livelihoods and jobs, while preserving the marine ecosystem and ocean governance. So essentially, we can say that all blue economies are marine economies, but not all marine economies are blue. So before we get it mixed up, marine and blue will just be reciting like a rhetoric. But we don't know that there's a fine line between two of them. And what we're in now, in this new dispensation, is more of blue than marine economy. Because we have had marine economy for quite a while, but we are progressing to real blue economy. Next slide. Now, the concept of sustainability in curriculum development. You all know that we are now in an era of sustainable development with sustainable development goals clearly stated for everything, for education, for environment, for everything. So how does curriculum development, how does sustainability play its role in blue economy? So curriculum developers can incorporate sustainability by embedding sustainability teams across subjects. As you are developing your various subject teams, you ask yourself, which sustainable development goal is this particular objective addressing? Otherwise, you just be writing and filling the books and helping Nigeria produce more unemployable graduates. 2, incorporating project-based learning and case studies. Try to be as practical as possible. Somebody said he doesn't want to think outside the box. He wants to think what to do with the box. Which one do you like? Thinking outside the box or thinking what to do with the box? Which one do you like? A or B? Thinking without the box. Okay. Which one do you like? You want to do both of them. All right. How about somebody actually seeing what to do with the box? Who put the box there? And what do we do? What can we do with the box? All right. So encouraging community engagement and partnerships. That is local knowledge within the marine environment. When I was young, I came from a marine environment, so I used to go fishing. Even as a university student, when I come back, I go fishing. And they will say, this one is in the university, is coming to do fishing. So there's something I know from the waters around that a PhD holder then may not know. So there's local knowledge. That's why we can engage people. In the days when there was no means of storage, we harvest yam, we dig the ground and put the yam. Next year, the yam is still alive. You put the same yam outside, before you know it, something will start decaying. So you create a conducive environment for the yam to still stay alive. So there's local knowledge. When you engage the locals, the community of marine environment, coastal cities, you'll find that there will be some level of collaboration and participatory engagement. So those are the concepts that we need to bring, because they are the people that they are the first beneficiaries or first destroyers. Now, do you know that one of the problems facing Nigeria and affecting our economy is piracy, which is costing us fortunes, and it's a problem now that you pay as much as $1,000 to manage the marine, to navigate and bring something to Nigeria. All right. So, but all those problems are traced to the coastal communities. The pirates and armed robbers are from the coastal communities, more or less. So if we engage them, we are thinking about the future of our marine and blue economy. Yes, next slide. Now, there are several methods of developing a curriculum. One is evidence-based curriculum, and this is addressing a curriculum that is grounded with real data. So it's evidence-based. Let's move to the next slide, because they have given me a warning later. There's a knowledge-based curriculum. A knowledge-based curriculum focuses on designing educational programs centered around specific knowledge areas, discipline, or subjects. There are things you cannot develop because you don't have the knowledge. I'm a maritime lawyer. If you give me something around the marine environment, from policy to law, I will not struggle, even with the terminologies. So I can develop something based on my knowledge and experience. All right, next slide. There's a tech-based curriculum which leverages technology to create personalized, efficient, and engaging learning experiences. So that is tech-based. So if you think that you want to develop some aspect of the blue economy that will leverage technology to exploit the resources, it's going to be tech-based, and a tech person is more likely suitable for that. Next. There are emerging trends in curriculum development. Competency-based education focused on students' mastery of skills, allowing for personalized learning gaps. Then there's a social, emotional learning, which incorporates skills like emotional intelligence, relationship building, and responsible decision making. And there is a global citizenship and sustainability perspective. Now, if we are developing students that you want to play or compete with the global community, that's an approach. If you are developing students that cannot compete with the global community, then it means you are training people to remain third world, and if possible, fourth world. Next slide. There's a STEM base. You know that STEM is attracting students from science, technology, and the rest of them up to mathematics. They are going because you have trained your people with a curriculum that is STEM-based. So you have developed a more marketable breed of students than somebody who goes too natural with the curriculum. Next slide. There's also a sustainable development-based curriculum. We've mentioned something close to that before, which means for everything in your agenda, you are thinking sustainability. Yes, next slide. I will leave this. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Then there's a comprehensive, which is a curriculum that addresses diversity, equity, accessibility, ensuring that all students feel represented and supported. So if I take a class, for instance, and I'm looking at the brightest students, these are people at front, they are brightest students, and I'm not thinking about the average student, the poor student, I'm not inclusive. Then if I say, do you understand what I said? Those in front, yes, sir. And those at the back, of course, who are not very intelligent, they bend their head down. My curriculum cannot give me a better result, because the idea of bringing the whole class is to bring everybody from raw material to a finished product. So if you leave some people behind, your curriculum is neither comprehensive nor inclusive. Next slide. No, go ahead. You can take this one. Look, go ahead. There are priorities for curriculum development. What are my major priorities? One is digital literacy. Two is entrepreneurship education. Now, you might think that I'm an education, I'm not an entrepreneur. No. You can be an enterprise educator. Some people can be in the class, they are teachers, but before they leave the teaching profession, they will have produced a number of books. So they have made enterprise of their profession. Some people can also walk into the class and be teaching, and all they're earning is that's their salary. There's no entrepreneurship content in their career. So we can train people to make best use of their skills in an enterprise way. And then sustainability and global citizenship, which I mentioned before. Next slide. These are all priorities. Go ahead. Priorities. Priorities. Go ahead. Next slide. This next slide, can we all, no, I didn't say you should go now. Are you managing me or managing you? All right, let's all take that beautiful quote here. I know you can relate with that. Beauty without depth is just like decoration. I'm sure you have seen many people who dress very well, look very nice, but when you go home, you discover that nothing inside. The package is just packaging. It's same thing. Sustainable curriculum is that depth. So if you want to produce brilliant people who can turn Nigeria around, turn Africa around, it starts with the curriculum. It's that curriculum that drills down to the depth. That we can come up and say, some of our people, we have tech people in Nigeria now who are developing drones that are doing fantastic things because they were exposed to beautiful background that drills down. Thank you very much for enduring me. Let me escape.
Thank you.